Until the Thousand Year Blood War arc, Kenpachi was known as the Shinigami who had barely known anything about his Zanpakuto. Originally, he was the only Shinigami throughout the history of the Gotei 13 who didn't even know the name of his Zanpakuto prior to becoming a captain of the Gotei 13. We are aware that achieving Bankai is a prerequisite for becoming a captain, but the exception to this rule was Kenpachi Zaraki, who was unable to attain both releases of his Zanpakuto. Throughout the various battles that we see Kenpachi take part in, we see a considerable change in his character, most notably that he becomes stronger after each battle. Even after his battle with Ichigo, he had lamented about how he had wanted to learn the name of his Zanpakuto. When Zangetsu was speaking to Ichigo, he had also commented upon Kenpachi's relationship with his blade. Zangetsu was able to hear the cry of Kenpachi's blade, but despite this, Kenpachi was ignorant of it. This is because Kenpachi had never made a proper effort to form harmony with his blade, and because of this, his Zanpakuto Nozarashi had little spiritual energy, thus explaining why his blade is so easy to damage, and why it looks so worn down, with several chips running down its edge. It is truly a testament to how powerful Kenpachi is, as even in the sealed state of his Zanpakuto, he was still able to cut through virtually anything, and this was with no formal training. We see this when he cuts entire buildings in half, and even when he stabs through Ichigo's Zanpakuto after he removes his eye patch. Now, the topic of this video is going to be about Kenpachi's Bankai. I want to discuss the change that occurs with his blade after his training with Unohana, whereby he was able to remove all of the subconscious limits that he had placed upon his power, and he was able to awaken his Zanpakuto Nozarashi for the very first time. So without further delay, let's get into my explanation of Kenpachi's Bankai, going through how he had attained it and the inspirations that Kubo had used to design Kenpachi's Bankai state. Before the video begins, only 20% of the people who actually watch my content are subscribed to the channel. If you enjoy these videos, then subscribe and stick around for more content just like this. Now let's get back to the topic of the video. Kenpachi's Bankai is revealed to us in chapter 669, during his battle against the Sternritter Gerard Valkyrie. Prior to this payoff that occurs towards the end of the series, Kenpachi takes part in several battles during the Thousand Year Blood War arc, most notably his fight against Gremi, Unohana, and right at the start of the arc where he challenges Hashward and Yhwach. In chapter 502, we see Kenpachi, after having defeated 3 Sternritters, appear before their leader Yhwach. Typical of Kenpachi, he heads towards the strongest individuals on the battlefield. Hashward recognizes that Kenpachi is indeed a freak. He has no interest with fighting against the second in command, as he states that he was here to challenge Yhwach. Wasting little time, Kenpachi draws his blade and strikes the leader of the Quincy. Unfortunately, their encounter does occur off screen. As we cut back to the battle in chapter 505, we see Yhwach holding Kenpachi up in the air by his neck. He is disappointed by the captain, as he states that he had not lived up to his expectations. The Quincy had assigned Kenpachi to be the first of their 5 great war potentials that they were hoping to recruit. Because of his battle with a very unrefined Kenpachi, Yhwach states that the Soul Society is on the brink of collapse, and that the Quincy have nothing to worry about, because their opponents have grown weaker with the times of peace. The start of the Thousand Year Blood War arc was the perfect prelude to the training and development that several Shinigami undergo between the first and second Quincy invasion. It highlights the weaknesses of the characters, and in particular the glaring problem with the character of Kenpachi, which is that he has no bond with his Zanpakuto. The newly assigned head captain Shunsui realizes that Kenpachi possesses tremendous potential, and he is a valuable asset if the Shinigami desire to win their battle against the Quincy. In response to all of this, he orders Unohana to train Kenpachi so that he is strong enough to face off against the enemy. Kenpachi's training with Unohana takes place between chapters 523 to 527. We learn about their long-standing history, which explains how Unohana was responsible for Kenpachi subconsciously limiting himself. In an attempt to redeem herself for the sin that she had committed, she gives her life for the sake of Kenpachi returning to his prior state, one where he no longer holds back and is concerned about prolonging his battles through suppressing his own power. After his training with Unohana, he mourns her death and cries out in frustration, but then for the very first time he is able to hear the voice of his Zanpakuto, the very blade that has been calling out to him for decades. His Zanpakuto is now finally heard by its master. It reveals its name to be Nozarashi, which means the weather beaten, and it's pretty obvious that this name complements and perfectly describes the appearance of Kenpachi's Zanpakuto when it is in its sealed state. Nozarashi states that it has always been by Kenpachi's side. It has always been watching watching him, his blade formally introduces himself to its master, revealing its name as well as its loyalty to the Kenpachi from Zaraki. In chapter 114, after Kenpachi's battle with Ichigo, he actually tries to listen to his Zanpakuto, but he is unable to hear anything as he passes out. Nozarashi physically manifests and appears before Kenpachi in chapter 668. It seems as though his Zanpakuto has taken the form of his former lieutenant Yachiru. Nozarashi tells Kenpachi that if he uses the Zanpakuto correctly, then there is nothing that he cannot cut. She touches Kenpachi's hand, which appears to release Reiatsu, as she reveals that this power is what is referred to as Bankai. It was thanks to Nozarashi manifesting that Kenpachi was able to unlock and activate his Bankai. In chapter 577, we had seen the Shikai release of Kenpachi's Zanpakuto. His blade had taken the form of a giant axe, and it was quite an impressive release. We know that the key emphasis surrounding Kenpachi's blade is that it has the ability to cut through anything, and this is demonstrated in chapter 578, where he uses his Shikai to split a meteorite in half. So with Kenpachi being able to effortlessly cut through anything, how is this motif instilled into his Bankai? Well, we finally get a glimpse of Kenpachi's Bankai in chapter 669. There is a change in both Kenpachi's physical appearance and in the appearance of his Zanpakuto. The spiritual energy that is released by this activation levels nearby buildings, and when the dust settles, we see that Kenpachi now has red skin color. He has grown horns from the top of his forehead, and he has these distinctive black markings all over his body and his face. He resembles an Oni, which is a creature that exists in Japanese folklore. It is pretty similar to what we would describe as a demon or an orc. From the traditional folklore tales, Oni are known for being evil in nature, and they have a deep-rooted lust for murdering and devouring others. Stereotypically, an Oni is often colored in red, wearing very little clothing, and having those distinctive horns growing out of their head. The appearance of an Oni signals great misfortune, as they often come bearing plagues and illnesses, as well as earthquakes and wars, and in these Japanese folklores they are known to have destructive power. And lastly, Oni are known to have a craving for human flesh. It is said that they can eat a person whole with a single bite. It is evident that this appetite for human flesh is correlated to Kenpachi's desire or lust for battle. While in his Bankai state, he adopts the traits of these creatures of folklore. We see Kenpachi unlike we have ever seen him before, as he has activated his full potential and in effect goes full berserker mode. Kenpachi's blade also transforms into a modified version of his Shikai. It is considerably shorter in size with jagged edges, which makes it appear as though the blade has been cut in half. After this transformation, Gerard states that Kenpachi has undergone a rapid rise in spiritual pressure. He also degrades Kenpachi's blade, as he states that that broken blade cannot be a Bankai. When the Sternritter is about to attack him, we see Kenpachi's demonic face, as he easily cuts off the Sternritter's right arm. By utilizing his Bankai, we see him demonstrate incredible physical strength and cutting power. With a single blow, he is easily able to topple a gigantic Gerard Valkyrie. When the Sternritter attempts to counterattack, Kenpachi easily cuts him into two. Hitsugaya and Byakuya, who are standing by, comment on the situation, as they state that it would be best to maintain their distance from Kenpachi, as it is evident that he cannot be reasoned with in this current state. From what we can see, it is evident that this is a very unrefined Bankai transformation, and it is one that Kenpachi has very little control over, and we're not entirely sure whether if he would even attack his own allies if Gerard wasn't on the battlefield, as it seems as though he is just blindly attacking the strongest person in front of him. When Gerard reforms and activates his holy form, Kenpachi tries to continue the battle, but his right arm effectively bursts, as Nozarashi appears and apologizes to Kenpachi, as it seems as though his Zanpakuto had released too much of his power, and his body couldn't handle it. Because of this, Gerard is able to turn the tables and pin Kenpachi to the ground. This effectively puts a stop to Kenpachi's Bankai state, as we see him in the following chapter back to his normal self. While in his Bankai form, Kenpachi was mindlessly attacking the Sternritter, with very little care about the consequences to his own body. It is a stark contrast to his appearances throughout the story, as we see him fight with his fullest potential. He has so much power that it is destructive to his own body. From this brief glimpse that we had of Kenpachi's Bankai, it is evident that there is a lot of room for growth. We know that the epilogue of Bleach takes place 10 years after the end of the 1000-year Blood War arc, so it would be interesting to see if Kenpachi has refined and mastered his Bankai in that time, as we do see him make an appearance within the No Breeds from Hell special chapter. So we're at the point in the video where I want to hand over the discussion to all of you. What did you think about Kenpachi's Bankai transformation, and what are your theories about its powers and abilities? Do you think that it's just a plain old simple berserker mode, or do you believe that with enough training Kenpachi will be able to control himself in this form? I would love to know all of your thoughts thoughts, especially about the parallels that exist between this form and the Oni from Japanese folklore tales. So definitely continue the discussion in the comments, and thank you for making it to the end of this video, and I can't wait to see you in my next Bleach video. If you enjoy my content, then you can support my channel through Patreon for as little as $1 a month, or even through YouTube by becoming a channel member. You will gain access to exclusive channel perks and a Discord server which I frequently use. So become a member of my Zero Division and be the first to know about my upcoming videos. And once again, thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.